Hello and welcome back to another Star Wars discussion here on this channel, and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler review of one of the Legends books called The Old Republic Fatal Alliance. Now you heard me right, this is a spoiler review, so consider yourselves warned on all things spoilers. But before I get into the review, I have to say, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this and want to see more videos like this in the future. With that being said, let's get into the review. So Star Wars The Old Republic, this one is written by Sean Williams and I audibled it, so this one is read by Mark Thompson, one of the best readers of Star Wars books in my opinion. But to really get to the heart of this book, I think I'm going to at least tell you where we kind of start off with every single character, or every single of the main characters, because there are like 4 or 5 different storylines that kind of come together. So here we go. We start off with Jet Nebula, and he's a space pirate, pretty much, or privateer, I guess you would call it. And what happens is he finds a ship out in space, and he wants to do pretty much steal what they've got and take the ship for himself, and he tries to take it and it blows up. Now what happens is the people on the ship, it seems like they killed themselves because they didn't want him to get what was on the ship. But he gets far enough away from the explosion so that it doesn't mess with his ship very much. And so since they blew themselves up, Jet Nebula thinks that, hey, maybe they have something that's of value on their ship. So he scans the debris and he finds what we later find out is a mini droid factory. And so what he does is he takes this and the Navicomputer, which will tell you where to go and find the creators of this mini droid factory, and he decides to sell it to Tassa Barish, who is a Hutt. She's one of the old Hutts in the Old Republic, and what happens is she decides to have an auction between the Empire and the Republic for the contents of what Jet Nebula found, and for the Navicomputer, which will get them the coordinates to the planet in which this thing originated on. And so after that we skip over to we have Padawan Shagar is his name, and he pretty much is on Coruscant, and he meets Loryn Moxla, who is a ex-Special Forces, and she's kind of doing freelancing stuff on her own. And what happens is Shagar just happens upon her and a Mandalorian by the name of Daus Striver, and he helps Loryn Moxla fight off the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian kind of drops hints, and what happens is we find out very much later in the book that this Mandalorian he was dropping hints on purpose so that he would get the Republic to investigate this ship. So he drops hints to them about something called the Cinzia, which is the name of the ship that Jet Nebula tried to pirate, and a lady named Lima Xandrid. And so what happens is once the Mandalorian leaves, Shagar and Loryn, they decide to pretty much team up to figure out what the Mando was doing, and try to stop him from getting what he wants. And then we skip over, or we go to another person who is a Sith apprentice by the name of Eldon Axe. Now this is a young lady, and what we find out that she fought Daus Striver also, and she had learned pretty much what the Jedi, what Shagar and Loryn learned, because Daus Striver, like I said, was dropping these hints. And what happens is she goes back to her master Darth Kratos, and she tells him, hey, he was talking about something called the Cinzia and Lima Xandrid. And then her master Darth Kratos, who, well, he listens to the names, and then he reveals to us and to Eldon Axe that Lima Xandrid was Eldon Axe's mother, and that Cinzia was actually Eldon Axe's original name. What happened was Darth Kratos, Lima Zandrid hid Eldon Axe from the Sith because she was force sensitive, and Lima Zandrid was a droid maker, and so it's like apparently Lima Zandrid made this little mini droid factory and named the ship that it was on after her daughter. So what happened was, once the Sith found Eldon Axe, they took her away from her mother, and then they put a mental block in her mind to block her memories of her mother and her past family. And so that's pretty much where we start off with them. And then the final person is Ula V. Now he is a spy for the Empire who is working, God bless you. He's a spy for the Empire who is working with the Republic. Well, he's a spy for the Empire and he's working in the Republic. So he's like the Empire's spy. So he infiltrated the Republic, and he is since Tassa Barish, had decided to have the auction. What happens is the Republic decides to send Ula V to be the envoy to go to this auction that Tassa Barish was having. And so that's pretty much what this book is kind of mostly about. Is you have Shigar and Lorin on their own journey to Nal Hutta, where Tassa Barish is. Then you have Envoy VE, which is the Sith, or the imperial spy. Sorry. And then you have Axe and Kratos, Eldon Axe and Darth Kratos, who are also going to Nal Hutta. And you have Dow Striver, who is the Mandalorian, and he's pretty awesome in this. So you have like 4 different storylines, and they all kind of connect at Nal Hutta, and that's where we go. That's where we start from. So the overall plot is everybody gets to Nal Hutta, then pretty much everyone decides to steal the precious cargo that is there, that the Tassa Barish is trying to auction off. Striver ends up getting not all of it, but he ends up getting the nav computer, which has the coordinates to the planet in which that this thing originated from. And then it's kind of a thing where it's like, hey, one character got it, but it doesn't really matter that Dow Striver got it, because in the end, everyone, including the people who didn't get the nav computer from the ship, literally everyone from the Sith and the Jedi and the Republic, the Empire and the Republic, pretty much everyone gets to the planet that the ship originated from. And what they find out is that the people, Lima Zandrid, what they find out was she invented this droid factory that was, that was mini, and it just, what happened was the droid factory would take elements from whatever is around it. So it would send out like the way the book describes it is little strands of metal that it would like spiderweb out, and then it would take element like metals and things like that from its surroundings, and then just bring those things back to the actual the little factory, and then it would just make these robots that are very highly adaptable. Like, they were adapting to everything, including what Dow Striver was doing, and the Jedi. They were like blocking the lightsabers. It was like bending the lightsabers too. It was kind of weird. This thing kind of does delve into science fiction more than science fantasy, but hey, that's nitpicking. But these robots, and when they get to the planet that the ship originated from, they find out that like they had a bunch of huge, massive factory on this planet that Lima Zandrid had made. Turns out Lima Zandrid was dead. It's kind of weird. She's dead, but she's not dead because she has a clone, and it definitely does delve into science fiction. But they find out that the big factory had been making these robots like constantly for on this planet, and so like it literally had like defenses against anybody who would come in and find the planet, and it was like there were just a bunch of robots defending this planet from both the Sith and both the Empire and the Republic. And what happens is Stryver convinces both of them, the Sith or the Empire and the Republic, to work together pretty much. And he's like, hey, if you guys want this stuff, you're gonna have to work together. But if you don't, because what happens is the robots are kind of like tearing up. They're both the Republic and the Sith, and so Stryver's like, hey, do you realize how fast these things are making robots? Like it is making robots quick. I mean, it says that like in the time that they have been there after that first battle, like they had already their production had grown like 15% or 15% or something like that. So Stryver's like, hey, you guys, if you don't work together, this thing is going to eventually become too big for this little planet, and then it's going to go off planet, and you don't want this thing going off planet because these robots are nasty. These droids are nasty. I mean, they have adaptation. They can adapt to anything. They can literally you can literally put a one of their factories on any planet and it would just send those spiderweb little metal strands out. It would get the materials it needs for droids, and then it would just keep producing droids, and then those droids would eventually make a bigger factory or make more factories. And it's kind of like, hey, if you guys don't stop this thing could take over the entire galaxy, and then neither the Empire nor the Republic would be able to stop it once it gets as big as it is, because the droids are so formidable. And so what happens is he does convince them to work together. They all work together, and I think that this book is good. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, this book is better than the Darth Bane trilogy, or it's better than, Heir to the Empire and the Thrawn trilogy. I don't think it's as good as those books. I think it's a good book. But I do think that it delves too much into science fiction. Like, it delves too much into the stuff that kind of not the overall stuff that doesn't appeal to me from the prequels. Also with the clone, like having the clones and then doing the science fiction stuff, I have never enjoyed having science fiction in my Star Wars, because I know in my heart it is it's fantasy, not science fiction. So having things like, there was a clone of Eldon Axe, and then that clone was in some kind of red Bacta, I assume it was called, and it was keeping her alive, but it was also allowing her to control the droids. And then there was a clone of the mother, even Lima Zandra. There was a clone of her also in that Bacta, that red Bacta, that was uh, doing the Palpatine to Vader and just kind of controlling him, like Palpatine did to Anakin more than Vader. Just like being right there in his ear, controlling. The clone of Lima Zandra, the mother, was in the ear of the clone of Eldon Axe, and was kind of controlling her and making her have the robots fight off both the Republic and the Empire. But this book is not terrible. I'm not saying this book is terrible. I just think that, hey, maybe not do all the science fiction stuff. And I know it's hard. Like, I'm not trying to like bash on the writer Sean Williams at all. I know it's difficult to make Star Wars because it's definitely easy to see, lasers, uh, um, laser swords, space. Yeah, science fiction. I know it's easy to do that, but it's kind of like, I don't want to bash on Sean Williams, but then again I realize, hey, this isn't Star Wars. As far as what happens in the book, I I understand that, like, when somebody sees Star Wars and then they read a book like this that says Fatal Alliance, you would assume that it would be something like fight using, a Jedi teaming up with a Mandalorian to fight a Sith or something like that. But the way that this book does it, it's definitely different. It's definitely fresh to the Star Wars universe. But as far as Old Republic, where you have, armies of the entire army of the Sith, and then you have an entire army of the Jedi. This book um I feel like this book is kind of limited in the fact that it doesn't use them to fight against each other. Yes, you have like one fight between Shagar and Eldon Axe, but that's like it's kind of that fight is interrupted, and so it's not like a full fight between a Jedi and a Sith, whereas you have your main bad guys are the droids, and they're literally just cannon fodder. Like you can like when you go back and look at the prequels, you have the droids that are with the separatist, and those are definitely cannon fodder. And the droids in this book are better. They're better equipped. They seem like they're more menacing in this book, but all in all, I feel like they're just cannon fodder. And I understand that it's like, hey, you win by numbers sometimes, and that's great. That's cool for having the droids do that, but it didn't seem like there were any stakes. Like even when Douse Driver was saying, "Hey, these robots could take over the galaxy," I was like, "Really? But really, would they? Like, would they?" It to me that kind of there wasn't stakes in this book, and that's something that when you have Jedi against Sith, I know that I did Deceived, and in that book there weren't a lot of stakes. There was but there was a lot of drama between the characters, whereas in this book I never felt like there was a lot of drama between anybody. Even Envoy VE, who was trying to like subtly tell the Sith, "Hey, I'm on your side," but not get his cover blown. It was like, but I don't really care about that character. I don't really care about any of the characters except for the one Lorin. Except for her, I really didn't care about any of the other characters. But Lorin was cool to me. I thought that X Special Forces, and then at the end of the book, since she lives and she does very well in the last battle against the planet of droids, I guess you would call it. They re-enlist her, and she gets promoted, and I think she gets promoted to captain, and so she has a lot of guys under her, and it's very interesting. I mean, it's very cool to see a character that you enjoy. Like she gets something good that happens to her, whereas in Star Wars we're not used to, at least in the Old Republic books, the bad guys tend to win. I mean, that's just how it goes. Like when you have like books like this where your Jedi is not a master, the bad guys tend to win. And so I thought that really I only cared about Lorin, and that's something that, hey, I understand that that's something that's kind of like you can't really help that because literally all of these characters are brand new, and so you never really heard of them in any other book before. But it's just that I wish that I would have liked the characters. I went into the book wanting to like these characters. It's just that I didn't, and that's something that's unfortunate. But it's something that was like I'm not going to just like a character because they're in Star Wars. I'm going to like them because they're a cool character, and I only found one really cool character in this book. So the characters in this book, I feel, weren't weren't as impactful and as interesting to me as some of the other characters. All in all, I think this is actually a good book. I don't think that this is an amazing book. I don't think that this is a like one of the top Legends books. This is all my opinion, though. Feel free to disagree with me. But I don't think it's a terrible book. I do think that it's a nice Star Wars book, and if you want a new Star Wars story, I would probably recommend other books over this book. But hey, if you've read those other books, like the Thrawn trilogy or the Bane trilogy or even Deceived, if you've read those other books, I would say, hey, yeah, if you want a new Star Wars that's Legends, go ahead and pick this up. It's a fun read. I think that you go into it knowing that it does have science fiction stuff, but overall, it's pretty, for the most part, Star Wars. I just wish that they would have kept it in fantasy rather than science fiction. But that's like the only thing. Like, hey, I understand that there are droids. I understand that there are clones, but it's kind of weird when you combine them and you have a clone being able to, without the Force, being able to control like thousands and thousands of droids. It doesn't quite make sense to me. And then it also gives you the chance of like having hive mind, where you just kill one, you just kill the main one, and then they all the other ones just kind of die, like Chitauri, or even the Phantom Menace with what happened, where they destroyed the command ship and then all those droids just died. And so yeah, you run into problems like that, but for the most part I think this is a good book, and I would say it's not a must read. I think it's kind of like, if you want to, go ahead. But that, there you go. That's my thoughts on this book, and I want to know what you think about it. If this review just did not help you, please tell me that in the comment section down below. Tell me how to improve my reviewing, because that's my main thing, you guys. I always want to improve on what I'm doing. As the ice cream truck comes by my house, I always want to get better at reviewing, because I want to be able to, bring something new. Because if you wanted reviews of things like Star Wars books, you can find probably hundreds of them. But tell me what you would like to know about the next book. I think my next book, I just finished reading. I just finished reading Inferno Squad, Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad. It's an amazing book, you guys. That review might actually go up before this one. I'm not sure which one I'll do, but I'll definitely do that review very soon, if not before this one that you're watching. But tell me what you want to know about the books. I know books are different than movies, and I know I'm primarily a movie channel, but hey, if you enjoy these Star Wars books reviews, tell me what you want to know about the review. Tell me story, tell me plot, tell me anything you want to know about the books that I do. I'll be definitely open to suggestions from you. But there you go. I'm done talking. Thank you very much for watching this video. And like I said before, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this and want to see more videos like this in the future. And if you love Star Wars, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Bye-bye.